So my name is David Suárez. I'm Vice Dean at IE Business School, and I ran 3 programs at IE. And then I also have an institutional role with the Center for Health and Wellbeing. I'm Vice Chair. Prior to IE, I was a strategy and management consultant. I had been doing that for about 22 years. In June 2020, we were basically 4 months into the pandemic. I was a partner with this big 4 consulting firm. I had a team of about 80 to 100 people, and we had been basically 3 months into the pandemic. We were hitting a period of huge business uncertainty. We didn't know where things were going to go. It was a very intense period because obviously we were within a month of closing the year, and the last 4 months had been terrible. The world had shut down. We had moved well over 200,000 people across the firm to work remotely. I kept on telling my team, we got to be thankful that at least a large portion of what we do as a professional services firm can be delivered by digital means. That it's very different from what other businesses are living through. And but it was extremely intense. We moved from having monthly executive committee meetings to daily committee meetings. I had basically my boss breathing down my neck every single day. We moved to a working method where we were basically working for 15-hour days. Now, the other thing that's important to remember is in the pandemic, a lot of people sort of moved before major shutdowns, and we had just moved into a smaller house where we lived. We had a couple of kids in college, and one of them came back to live with us. He basically took over my home office, which meant that I was living and I was staying in my bedroom, and I did the math, about 23 hours a day, right? Because I slept in the same place that I worked, and I was in that room for quite a long time. It became common to have meetings at 11 or 12 midnight, even 1 a.m. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And I was walking the dog, and I was just wondering, do I really want to continue to do this, right? Because consulting is a very high pressure job to begin with. I had loved every bit of it for the past 20-some years. But it wasn't the first time that I was, in that situation, very high pressured. I was feeling, very close to a burnout. I don't think that I burned out, but I was almost on that slippery slope. And I said to myself, I got to do something about this. If I don't act right now, this is going to be very difficult. I'm going to be in a very difficult place. Uncertainty breeds fear, and fear breeds paralysis. I mean, to a point I felt paralyzed. It's like, what do I do now? I felt stuck to a degree that I had not felt stuck before, right? Previously, I think I had been in situations where I wanted to maybe try other things. If you ask my wife, she would tell you, David, I don't know how many times you told me that you want to quit and the hell with everything. Okay, this wasn't the first time. I told her that, but it wasn't the first time. But it was different, I think, because the world was in a very different place, and it made me question things that I had never really questioned before. So I started reading a lot, and there were 3 authors that really influenced me. Jim Quick, a brain coach, Jill Bolte Taylor, a neuroanatomist at Harvard University, and James Clear, a speaker, author, and guru. Now, these 3 people had 3 things in common. They had all 3 of them put the brain at the center of what they did. They were great at what each of them did in their professional fields. And the 3 of them suffered traumatic brain injury at some point in their lives. I'm not going to get into details here, but what was also amazing is that the 3 of them recovered. Not only did they recover to the levels they were before they had this injury, but they actually exceeded that by a long shot. And I thought to myself, the brain is an unbelievable organ that we all have. It's probably the most mysterious and complex structure in the universe. And it's a tool that we all have that we probably severely underuse, and that can help to get me out of the hole that I felt that I was falling into, right? I got professional help. I got a coach who helped me view things from a very different perspective, a coach that had gone through a similar situation. I knew that I did not want to be in consulting all my life. I knew that eventually I would change, but it had never really dawned on me that that time perhaps was drawing near, and that I needed to change something. Look, in hindsight, when I look back at where I was 4 years ago, I almost saw this whole process as a bit of a conversion. A conversion because I was basically taking myself into the grave at an earlier age. And I converted in the sense that I gave other things that were more important in my life a bigger priority. I have drastically changed the way I eat. I don't want to say obsessed, but let's just say that I pay a hell of a lot more attention to my sleep. This is an Oura Ring, which is a device that allows you to track your sleep. I know exactly what I'm doing, and it's been a great thing to at least help me become aware of what I was not doing right. Because I think that is the first step. Anybody who wants to change, the first thing that they have to do is, let's first be aware of whatever it is that you've got, right? And it's only then that you can actually change. So I changed the way I sleep, the way I ate, the way I exercise. There's a funny anecdote, right? That in this whole process, right after, or I think it was maybe a year later, I asked a strength coach, with this whole idea of exercise, he asked me about my life, and I told him, look, I was an athlete in my youth. I actually competed internationally for Spain. I competed in the US as well, and had always been very active. But when I turned 40, I had to stop running because my knees just gave, right? And he said, you can get back to running. I said, well, how do I do that? Strength training. So I went for like a year, doing strength training. I had not run in 15 years. I got back to running, first 5K, then 10K. And then last week, I finished my first official race in 40 years. I ran a 10K under an hour, 55 minutes roughly. I'm pushing, I'm beyond mid-50s, and I think I feel probably at least 15 years younger. I'm extremely happy. I'm extremely grateful. I've been married for 28 years. I could not be, my wife and I are as though we had just fallen in love again. Sorry, it sounds a little corny, but it's actually true, right? I could not be prouder of my 4 kids. And now I think after that, the career change, pivoting from consulting to academia, I'm actually fulfilling, I think it's a lifelong dream that I had, which was, I want to help other people become better. But I think I've now unlocked maybe 2 things that uniquely define what I want to do in the rest of my life, which is leverage the brain as a means to an end and help people find their way through better learning, right? And what better place to be than IE University and IE Business School. It's okay not to be okay. You're not the only person on this planet that may be going through a rough patch right now, and it's perfectly fine. You first have to take care of yourself. It's a little bit like the flight attendant's piece of advice, right? Put on your mask before you help others. Well, this is the same thing. Take care of yourself before you take care of others.